Hey, tonight I want to share something personal. There's this moment that sits in my memory like a scar that never quite faded. It was the night I realized that the person I trusted most in the world had been systematically dismantling my life from the inside out. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, because this story, my story, it didn't start with betrayal. It started with friendship. The kind of friendship everyone says only comes once in a lifetime. If this kind of storytelling speaks to you, feel free to like, subscribe, and drop a comment with your thoughts or your own story. Now, die in the lights or put on your headphones and let's begin. I met Cassidy when we were 7 years old. First day of second Ramad, she walked into Mrs. Henderson's classroom, wearing a bright yellow dress covered in sunflowers, her dark curls bouncing as she moved. I remember thinking she looked like sunshine itself. I was the shy kid who always sat in the back corner with my nose in a book, trying to be invisible. But Cassidy didn't care about invisible. She marched right up to my desk, slammed her purple lunchbox down, and said, "You look like you need a friend. I'm going to be your friend." And just like that, she was. For the next 18 years, Cassidy Walsh was my person, my emergency contact, my 3 in the morning phone call, my partner in crime, my sister in everything but blood. We did everything together. We learned to ride bikes on the same Saturday afternoon, both of us covered in scraped knees and ramass stains. We had our first crushes on the same boy in 5th Ramad, Tommy Martinez with the gap-toothed smile, and we made a pact that neither of us would date high-end because friends came first. We survived middle school by passing notes in class, invented our own secret language, spent every weekend having sleepovers where we'd stay up until dawn talking about our dreams. Cassidy wanted to be an actress. She had this magnetic quality. Even as a kid, when she walked into a room, people noticed. She could make everyone laugh, could turn a boring Tuesday into an adventure just by deciding it should be. I was the opposite, quieter, more careful, always thinking 3 steps ahead. I wanted to be a writer, to tell stories that mattered. We used to joke that she'd star in movies based on my books someday. We had it all figured out. High school was our kingdom. We were inseparable. Cassidy was the popular one, the girl everyone wanted to be friends with, and I was Cassidy's best friend, and that was enough to make me visible. I didn't mind living in her shadow. That's what I told myself, anyway. She brought me to parties I never would have been invited to. She stood up for me when anyone tried to make me feel small. When my dad left during our junior year, just packed his things one Tuesday morning and moved to another state, Cassidy was the one who held me while I cried. She stayed at my house for 3 days straight, slept on my bedroom floor, made sure I ate, made sure I didn't fall apart. "We're forever, Mara," she told me one night, both of us lying on my roof watching the stars. "You and me against the world. Nothing's ever going to change that." I believed her. God, I believed her with everything I had. College came, and we made it work despite going to different schools. She went to USC for theater. I went to a small liberal arts college in Oregon for creative writing. We video called every single day, sent each other care packages, visited whenever we could. The distance was hard, but our friendship felt solid, unbreakable. When she started dating Marcus during her sophomore year, I was the first person she told. When I got my heart broken by a guy who turned out to be seeing 3 other girls, she drove 8 hours to my campus just to take me out for ice cream and tell me I deserved better. After college, we both moved back to our hometown of Riverside. Neither of us had really made it yet. Cassidy was auditioning constantly but mostly getting callbacks for commercials, and I was working at a coffee shop while querying literary agents with my novel. We got an apartment together, a tiny 2-bedroom place with windows that didn't quite close and a radiator that clanked all night. It was perfect. Living together as adults was different than sleepovers had been. You see someone in a new light when you share a bathroom and split bills and navigate whose turn it is to take out the trash. But for the first few months, it was good. Great, even. We fell into an easy rhythm. We had friends over for dinner parties that turned into dance parties. We left each other encouraging notes on the bathroom mirror. We watched bad reality TV on our secondhand couch and ate takeout straight from the containers. Then I met Ryan. I met Ryan at the coffee shop where I worked. He was a regular, came in every Tuesday and Thursday morning, always ordered the same thing, medium dark roast, no room for cream. He had kind eyes and an easy smile, and after 3 weeks of serving high-end coffee, he finally asked me out. Our first date was at this little Italian restaurant downtown, and we talked for 4 hours straight. He was a software developer, recently moved to Riverside for work. Didn't know many people yet. He was thoughtful and funny and interested in my writing. He actually asked to read my manuscript, and when he did, he gave me detailed, intelligent feedback that made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt before. I told Cassidy about Hyan after our third date. We were in our apartment, and I was trying to play it cool, but I couldn't stop smiling. "He sounds amazing," Cassidy said, but there was something in her voice I couldn't quite place. Something that made the smile on her face not quite reach her eyes. But then she hugged me and said, "I'm so happy for you. Mara, you deserve this." Ryan and I became official after a month. I was falling for Hyan in that scary, exhilarating way where you start reimagining your future with someone in it. Cassidy seemed happy for me. She'd ask about our dates, give me advice on what to wear, help me pick out gifts for Hyan. When I invited Ryan over to our apartment for the first time, Cassidy was charming and warm, made Hyan feel welcome, told embarrassing stories about me from our childhood that made us all laugh. "Your best friend is Ramit," Ryan told me later that night. "I can see why you two are so close." Everything seemed fine, better than fine. I had my best friend, I had an amazing boyfriend, and I had just gotten my first real bite of interest from a literary agent. Life felt like it was finally falling into place. But looking back now, I can see the tiny cracks beginning to form. The small moments I dismissed or didn't even notice at the tie-in. Like how Cassidy started dressing differently after meeting Ryan. She'd always had her own style, bold and theatrical, but suddenly she was wearing clothes that were more subdued, more like what I wore. Jeans and simple tops instead of her usual vintage dresses and statement jewelry. Or how she started asking a lot of questions about Ryan. What did he like? What were his hobbies? What made Hyan laugh? At first, I thought she was just being a good friend, taking an interest in the person who was important to me. I told her everything about how he loved old sci-fi movies, how he played guitar, how he made me feel like the most interesting person in the room. There were other small things. The way Shed Samatians touched Ryan's arm when she laughed at his jokes. How she started showing up at the coffee shop where I worked, during tie-ins when she knew Ryan would be there. How Shed suggest we all hang out together, me, and Ryan more and more frequently. "I just want to get to know the guy who makes my best friend so happy," She'd say, and it sounded so reasonable, so caring. I told myself I was being paranoid. Cassidy was my best friend. We'd been through everything together. She'd been there for my worst moments, celebrated my best ones. There was no reason to doubt her. If anything, I felt guilty for even having these fleeting thoughts, these little pinpricks of unease. But the human brain is good at recognizing patterns, even when we don't want to see them. And deep down, in a place I wasn't ready to acknowledge yet, I think I knew something was wrong. I just didn't want to believe it. Couldn't believe it. Because believing it would mean accepting that the foundation my entire adult life was built on might be made of sand. So I pushed the feelings down. I smiled when Cassidy suggested another Ramap hangout. I laughed when she and Ryan developed inside jokes that I wasn't part of. I told myself this was what it looked like when your best friend and your boyfriend got along. This was a good thing. I remember one night in particular, about 3 months into my relationship with Ryan. The three of us were at our apartment, watching a movie. I fell asleep on the couch. It'd been pulling extra shifts at work, and when I woke up around midnight, Cassidy and Ryan were still there, talking quietly in the kitchen. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but they both looked startled when I walked in, like it interrupted something. "Hey, sleepyhead," Ryan said, his smile quick and bright. "We were just talking about ordering pizza." "At midnight?" I said, still ramaggy. Cassidy laughed. "Your boyfriend has weird eating habits, Mara. I'm trying to educate Hyan." The moment passed. We ordered pizza, ate it while watching another movie, and Ryan went home around 2. After he left, Cassidy hugged me goodnight and told me she loved me, and I went to bed feeling foolish for the split second of suspicion I'd felt in the kitchen. But that feeling that something wasn't quite right, it was starting to take root. Like a seed planted in dark soil, waiting to ramo. The thing about betrayal is that it rarely announces itself. It creeps in slowly, disguising itself as care, as friendship, as love. It wears a familiar face and speaks in a trusted voice, which is precisely what makes it so devastating when you finally see it for what it is. For me, the unraveling happened gradually, then all at once. It started with small changes in Cassidy that I couldn't quite articulate. She'd always been confident, almost irremessively so, but now there was an edge to it, a competitiveness that hadn't been there before. When I mentioned that my agent was interested in my manuscript, Cassidy's congratulations felt hollow. Her smile was tight, and she changed the subject quickly, steering the conversation to her latest audition one she didn't get. "It's so hard out there," she said, staring into her wine glass. "Some tie-ins, I feel like I'm never going to make it. Like I'm watching everyone else get what they want, while I'm stuck in the same place." "You're incredibly talented, Cass," I told her, meaning it. "Your breakthrough is coming." She looked at me then with an expression I'd never seen before. Something calculating and cold, there and gone in a flash, replaced by her usual warmth so quickly I wondered if I'd imagined it. "Thanks, babe," she said, squeezing my hand. "What would I do without you?" Ryan and I had been dating for 6 months when things started feeling off with High-End too. Nothing I could point to directly. He was still attentive, still caring, still showed up when he said he would. But there was a distance ramming between us that I couldn't bridge. He seemed distracted when we were together, checking his phone more often, sometimes smiling at messages he wouldn't explain. "Just work stuff," he'd say when I asked, slipping his phone back into his pocket. I wanted to trust Hyan. I wanted to trust both of them. But there was this ramming knot in my stomach that I couldn't untangle, a sense of dread that followed me everywhere. The three of us still spent time together regularly. Cassidy insisted on it, actually. She'd suggest game nights, ram-up dinners, movie marathons. At first, I thought it was sweet that she was making such an effort to include Ryan in our friendship. But I started noticing things that made that knot in my stomach pull tighter. The way they'd make eye contact across the room and smile, like they were sharing a private joke. The way Cassidy's hand would linger on Ryan's shoulder just a beat too long when she laughed. The way Ryan's eyes would find her in a crowded room. Small things. Tiny things. Things I told myself I was overthinking. I confided in my coworker, Jade, one afternoon during a slow period at the coffee shop. "I feel crazy," I admitted, wiping down the espresso machine for the third tie-in. "Like I'm inventing problems that don't exist." "Trust your gut," Jade said, direct as always. She was 10 years older than me, had been through 2 divorces, and had exactly 0 patience for bullshit. Women's intuition exists for a reason. If something feels off, it probably is. "But they're the 2 most important people in my life," I said. "I can't just accuse them of whatever I think might be happening." "You're not accusing anyone of anything," Jade pointed out. "You're feeling uncomfortable in your own relationship and friendship. That's valid regardless of what's actually going on." She was right, but I wasn't ready to face it yet. Instead, I doubled down on denial. I planned special date nights with Ryan. I suggested girls' nights with just Cassidy. I threw myself into revisions on my manuscript, using work as an excuse to avoid the ramming tension I felt but couldn't name. Then came Cassidy's birthday. She wanted to celebrate at this upscale restaurant downtown, somewhere we'd normally never be able to afford, but she insisted on treating everyone. She invited about 15 people, our friend Ram-up from high school, some people from her acting classes, and Ryan and me. I spent a week planning the perfect gift for her, a vintage necklace I'd found at an antique shop that reminded me of one her grandmother used to wear. The night started well enough. Everyone was dressed up, the food was amazing, and Cassidy was in her element, holding court at the head of the table, telling stories that had everyone laughing. Ryan sat next to me, his hand on my knee under the table, and for a moment everything felt normal again. But then I noticed them, those little glances, the way Cassidy's eyes kept finding Ryan, even when she was talking to someone else. The way he seemed hyper-aware of where she was in the room. And something else, they were both wearing the same cologne and perfume, the same scent. It hit me when Cassidy leaned over to hug me, and I caught that familiar woody smell that I'd started associating with Ryan. My heart started racing. I excused myself to go to the bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and tried to breathe through the rising panic. I was being ridiculous. They probably just shopped at the same store. It didn't mean anything. I was letting my anxiety create problems where none existed. When I came back to the table, someone had rearranged the seating. Ryan was now next to Cassidy, and the only empty chair was on the far end of the table. I sat down, feeling like I was watching my own life from outside my body. The rest of the night passed in a blur. I drank too much wine trying to quiet the thoughts in my head. I watched Ryan and Cassidy talk and laugh, watched the ease between them, watched the way they seemed to ramivitate toward each other. When it came time to give Cassidy her gift, I handed her the carefully wrapped necklace, and she opened it with an excitement that felt genuine. "Mara, this is perfect," she said, pulling me into a hug. "You know me so well." "Thank you." But when she pulled away, she looked at Ryan and said, "Isn't it beautiful?" And Ryan, my boyfriend, looked at my best friend and said, "Not as beautiful as you." The table went quiet for a split second. Then someone laughed, breaking the tension, and conversation resumed. But I felt like I'd been slapped. Ryan must have realized how it sounded because he quickly added, "The necklace, I mean, it's perfect for you, Cass." But the damage was done. Or maybe the truth was finally breaking through. I made an excuse to leave early, said I wasn't feeling well. Ryan offered to take me home, but I insisted I'd be fine in an Uber. I needed space to think, to process what I'd seen and heard. As I left, I looked back and saw Cassidy watching me with an expression I couldn't read. Then she turned back to Ryan, smiled, and said something that made Ryan laugh. That night, alone in our apartment while Cassidy was still out celebrating, I did something I'm not proud of. I went into her room. I told myself I was looking for proof that I was wrong, that I was being paranoid and insecure and letting my anxiety convince me of things that weren't true. But my hands were shaking as I opened her laptop, which she'd left on her desk, still powered on. Her messages were open, and there, right at the top of her recent conversations, was Ryan's name. I should have stopped, should have closed the laptop, walked away, confronted them both like an adult, but I didn't. I clicked on the conversation, and my entire world shattered. Months of messages, hundreds of them, starting from just a few weeks after Ryan and I had started dating. "Cassidy, hes cute. I can see why you like Ryan. Ryan, thanks. Mars Ramit. Am really lucky. Cassidy, she is Ramit. She deserves someone who really sees her." Innocent enough at first. But then, just a few days later, "Ryan, can I ask you something? About Mara?" "Cassidy, of course. Anything." "Ryan, something in she seems distant, like she's somewhere else. Do you think she's really into this?" "Cassidy, oh, that's just how she is. Mara's always been a little closed off emotionally. It's something you'll have to get used to." I felt sick reading it. That wasn't true. I wasn't closed off. It'd been vulnerable with Ryan, more open than it'd been with anyone except Cassidy herself. And she knew that. She'd been there for every heartbreak, every fear, every moment when I'd let my walls down. The messages continued, escalating slowly. Cassidy suggesting that maybe Ryan and I weren't as compatible as I thought. Mentioning tie-ins when I'd supposedly complained about high-end conversations that never happened. Planting little seeds of doubt. And Ryan, at first defensive, then remotely opening up to her about his insecurities in our relationship. Insecurities she fed and nurtured. "Ryan, so many ends I feel like she doesn't really need me. Like I'm just there." "Cassidy, I know what you mean. Mara's always been so independent. Some tie-ins I wonder if she's capable of really letting someone in." My hands were remapping the laptop so hard my knuckles turned white. This was my best friend, systematically poisoning my relationship. Telling the man I was falling in love with that I didn't need high-end, that I was emotionally unavailable, that I couldn't truly love someone. All lies. All carefully constructed lies. But the worst part, the part that made me want to scream, was watching Ryan believe her. Watching Ryan go from defending me to questioning me to, eventually, sharing things with Cassidy that had never shared with me. I scrolled further, and the messages became more personal, more intimate. "Cassidy, you're easy to talk to. I can see why Mara likes you. Though honestly, I think you might be too good for her. Ryan, that's not true, but thank you. You're easy to talk to too. Cassidy, we should hang out sometime. Just us. I want to get to know you better. Ryan, I'd like that." They'd been meeting up without me. For coffee, for lunch, for walks in the park. All under the guise of becoming better friends because they both cared about me. But the conversations detailed in these messages had nothing to do with me. They were talking about their lives, their dreams, their fears. They were building an intimacy that had nothing to do with friendship and everything to do with betrayal. And then, just 2 weeks ago, "Cassidy, I can't stop thinking about you." "Ryan, Cass, we can't do this." "Cassidy, do what?" "I'm just saying you're on my mind. Is that so wrong?" "Ryan, you know what I mean." "Cassidy, do I? Or are you afraid to admit that maybe you're thinking about me too?" There was a long gap then, like Ryan hadn't responded for hours. Then, Ryan, I'm with Mara. Cassidy, but are you happy? Really happy? Or are you just settling? Ryan, that's not fair. Cassidy, what's not fair is pretending. For any of us. Life's too short to be with someone who doesn't fully see you. And Mara doesn't see you. Ryan, not the way I do. I closed the laptop, walked to the bathroom, and threw up. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those messages burning behind my eyelids. Words that had been written in secret, conversations that had happened in the shadows while I'd been living my life, trusting the two people I loved most in the world. I wanted to be wrong. God, I wanted so desperately to be wrong. Maybe he had misunderstood. Maybe there was context I was missing. Maybe this was all some horrible misunderstanding that could be explained away with a simple conversation. But I knew better. The sickness in my stomach, the hollow feeling in my chest, that wasn't confusion. That was my body recognizing a truth my mind didn't want to accept. When Cassidy came home around 3 in the morning, I was sitting on the couch in the dark, waiting. She jumped when she saw me, her hand flying to her chest. Jesus, Mara, you scared me, she said, laughing. Then she registered my expression, and her smile faded. What's wrong? Are you okay? I need to ask you something, I said, my voice hoarse from crying. And I need you to tell me the truth. Something flickered across her face. Fear, maybe, or recognition that this moment had finally come, but she recovered quickly, her expression morphing into concern. Of course, she said, sitting down next to me and reaching for my hand. You're freaking me out. What's going on? Are you in love with Ryan? The question hung in the air between us like smoke. For a moment, Cassidy didn't move. Then she laughed, this short, sharp sound that didn't reach her eyes. What? Mara? No. Why would you even ask that? Because I read your messages. The concern dropped from her face like a mask. What replaced it was something I'd never seen before: anger. Yes, but also a kind of cold satisfaction. Like she'd been waiting for this. Maybe even wanted it. You went through my phone, she said slowly. Not a question, an accusation. Your laptop. It was open. So you invaded my privacy. You're trying to steal my boyfriend. My voice cracked on the last word, and I hated how weak I sounded. How desperate. Cassidy stood up, crossing her arms over her chest, and for the first time in 18 years, I felt like I was looking at a stranger. Is that what you think this is? She asked, her voice ice cold. Stealing? What else would you call it? Months of messages, meeting up behind my back, telling Hyan I'm closed off and emotionally unavailable, that I can't really love anyone. I never said that. I read it, Cassidy. I read every word. She was quiet for a long moment, her jaw working like she was trying to decide something. Then she laughed again. But this time it was bitter. You want to know the truth, Mara? Fine. The truth is that I've spent 18 years being your backup plan. Your sidekick. The friend who makes you look good by comparison. The one who's always there to prop you up when you're falling apart. But who isn't allowed to have her own problems because you're too fragile to handle anyone else's struggles. That's not true, isn't it? When did you last ask me how I was really doing? Not the surface level how are you, but actually caring about the answer. When did you last notice that I'm struggling too? That I have dreams that are dying? That I'm drowning in audition rejections and student debt and the constant fear that I'll never be good enough? I didn't know. Because you didn't ask. She was yelling now, years of resentment pouring out. Everything is always about you, Mara. Your writing, your relationship, your feelings. And I'm just supposed to smile and support you and celebrate your success while my life falls apart. So this is revenge? I asked, standing up to face her. Destroying my relationship because you're jealous? This isn't about revenge. This is about the fact that Ryan and I actually connect. We understand each other. We talk about real things, vulnerable things. He sees me, Mara, really sees me. When was the last time anyone made me feel that way? Has my boyfriend. And I'm your best friend, she shot back. But apparently, that means I'm supposed to stay small so you can shine. Well, I'm done with that. I'm done pretending. I'm happy for you when I'm dying inside. I'm done watching you get everything you want while I get nothing. I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. This wasn't about Ryan at all. This was about something bigger, deeper, more toxic that had been building for years without me seeing it. If you felt this way, why didn't you just tell me? My voice was barely a whisper. We could have talked about it. We could have. Talked about what, exactly? How you're the successful one. How you got the agent interested in your book, while I can't even land a speaking role in a commercial. How you found this Ramit guy while I haven't had a serious relationship in 3 years. What exactly was I supposed to say that wouldn't make you the victim again? I never tried to make you feel less than me, Cass. Never. Your struggles aren't my fault. No, but your success makes them harder to bear. She sat back down, suddenly looking exhausted. Do you have any idea what it's like? Watching your best friend, the person you've known your whole life, surpass you in every way? You're getting published. You found someone who loves you. You have your whole life figured out. And I'm just stuck. So you decided to take what I have? She looked up at me then, and there was something broken in her eyes. I didn't plan it, Mara. It just happened. Ryan and I started talking, and we connected, really connected. And yes, maybe I encouraged it. Maybe I wanted to feel what it was like to be chosen for once. To be the person someone couldn't stop thinking about instead of the friend who always comes second. He hasn't chosen you, I said. Has with me, for now. Those 2 words hung in the air like a threat, or a promise. You need to stop talking to Hyan, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. Whatever this is, whatever you think is happening, it needs to end. Now, Cassidy stood up slowly, and when she looked at me, there was something sad but determined in her expression. I can't do that. Can't or won't. Does it matter? Mara, I'm not trying to hurt you, but I'm also not going to apologize for having feelings. For the first time in my life, I feel seen by someone. I feel valued. And yes, it's complicated and messy and probably wrong, but I'm not going to walk away from it just because it makes you uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable? Cassidy, you're betraying me. You're destroying our friendship. Maybe our friendship was already destroyed, she said quietly. Maybe it's been broken for a long time, and we were both too afraid to admit it. I felt tears streaming down my face, but I didn't wipe them away. I trusted you with everything, every part of me, every secret, every fear, every dream. You were my person, Cass, and you were mine, she said. And for the first time, she looked like she might cry too. But somewhere along the way, you became the person I had to pretend to be okay around. The person I had to die in my own light for because yours was shining too bright. That's not fair. Maybe not, but it's true. We stood there in our living room, 18 years of friendship crumbling between us, and I realized that this was the last straw. Not just of our friendship, but of the version of myself that had been holding on to the version that believed, if you were kind enough, loyal enough, loving enough, people would treat you the same way. I'm moving out, I said finally. We'll start looking for a new place tomorrow. Mara. No. We're done, Cassidy. Whatever we were, whatever we had, it's over. I won't live with someone who's actively trying to sabotage my life. Am not. She stopped, seeming to realize how hollow any protest would sound. I never wanted it to end like this. Then you should have thought of that before you started falling for my boyfriend. I walked to my room and closed the door, leaning against it as I slid down to the floor. I could hear Cassidy crying in the living room, could hear her moving around, maybe packing to leave, or maybe just pacing. I didn't care anymore. I pulled out my phone and called Ryan. It was 4 a.m, but I didn't care about that either. He answered on the 3rd ring, his voice thick with sleep. Mara? What's wrong? We need to talk. Can you come over? There was a pause, and I heard Hyan moving, sheets rustling. Now? It's 4 a.m. I know what time it is. Can you come or not? Another pause, longer this time. When he spoke again, his voice was different, guarded. What's this about? You know what it's about. The silence on the other end of the line told me everything I needed to know. He knew. Had been waiting for this call, this confrontation. Maybe had even been relieved when my name showed up on his phone, because the waiting was finally over. It'll be there in 20 minutes, he said quietly. Those 20 minutes felt like hours. I sat on my bedroom floor, hugging my knees to my chest, listening to the apartment settle around me. At some point, I heard Cassidy's door close. I don't know if she left or just locked herself in her room. I didn't care. When Ryan knocked on the door, I almost couldn't make myself get up to answer it. Part of me wanted to pretend I wasn't home, to avoid this conversation entirely, to live in a reality where I hadn't read those messages and my whole life wasn't falling apart. But I opened the door. He looked terrible. His hair was messy, his eyes red-rimmed, like he hadn't been sleeping well either. He was wearing sweatpants and a hoodie, and he wouldn't quite meet my eyes. "Hey," he said softly. "Don't," I said, stepping back to let Hyan in. "Don't hate me like this is a normal visit." We stood in the entryway of my apartment. The apartment I'd soon be leaving, and I could feel the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on us. "I read your messages with Cassidy," I said, deciding to rip the bandage off. "All of them?" Ryan closed his eyes, his jaw clenching. When he opened them again, they were filled with something that looked like guilt but also, heartbreakingly, like relief. "Mara, I'm sorry. Are you in love with her?" "It's not that simple." "Yes, it is." "Are you in love with my best friend?" He ran his hands through his hair, looking anywhere but at me. "I don't know. Maybe. I didn't mean for it to happen." The worst part was that I believed Hyan. I could see the conflict in his face, the genuine confusion. But that didn't make it hurt any less. "When did it start?" I asked. "I don't know. There wasn't one moment. It was gradual. We were spending time together because of you. And then we started talking, really talking, and..." He trailed off. "But I didn't need Hyan to finish." "And you fell for her." "I fell for the way she made me feel," he said quietly. "Like I was interesting, like I mattered. You were always so focused on your writing, on your career, and I understood that. I did. But so many ends I felt like I was just part of the background of your life. And with Cassidy, don't..." I cut Hyan off, my voice sharper than I intended. "Don't make this about me not paying enough attention to you. If you were unhappy, you should have talked to me, not run to my best friend." "You're right," he said, and he looked miserable. "You're absolutely right. I handled this in the worst possible way, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Mara, do you want to be with her?" The question hung in the air. I watched emotions flicker across his face: doubt, longing, guilt, fear. Finally, he said, "I don't know what I want." "Then let me make it easy for you," I said, pulling off the simple silver ring he'd given me on our 6-month anniversary and holding it out to Hyan. "We're done. Mara, wait. Take it." He took the ring from my outstretched hand, his fingers brushing mine for the last tie-in. "I really am sorry," he whispered. "So am I," I said. "I'm sorry I trusted you. I'm sorry I trusted her. I'm sorry I didn't see what was happening right in front of me." "This isn't all on you," he said, but we both knew he was wrong. It was entirely on Hyan and Cassidy, but it was also on me for being so blind, so trusting, so naive. For believing that love and friendship were enough to keep people loyal. "You should go," I said, opening the door. Ryan hesitated, like there was more he wanted to say. But what else was there? Had made his choice, even if he wouldn't admit it yet. Even if he was still wrestling with guilt, or trying to convince himself had done nothing wrong by falling for someone else while we were together. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the frame, and looked back at me one last time. "For what it's worth," he said, "I did love you. I do love you. But not enough," I said. He didn't argue. He just left, the door clicking shut behind Hyan with a terrible finality. I stood there in my empty apartment, the only sound my own ragged breathing. Somewhere down the hall, I heard a door open Cassidy's room. She'd been listening. I waited for her to come out, to try to talk to me, to apologize or defend herself or something. But she didn't. After a moment, I heard her door close again, and I was alone. That's when I finally let myself fall apart. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life. Harder than when my dad left. Harder than any heartbreak I'd experienced before. Harder even than the years of rejection from literary agents. This wasn't just losing a boyfriend or ending a friendship. It was the complete dismantling of the life I'd built. The identity I'd constructed around being Cassidy's best friend and Ryan's girlfriend. I moved out of the apartment 3 days after that conversation. Jade from the coffee shop had a spare room she'd been trying to rent out, and she offered it to me at a price I could barely afford but accepted anyway. I packed my things while Cassidy was at an audition, leaving only a note that said I'd paid my half of next month's rent and would pick up my mail once it set up forwarding. The new place was smaller, darker, lonelier, but it was mine, and that counted for something. I stopped going to the places I used to go with Cassidy and Ryan, the coffee shop, where we'd had countless conversations, the park where we'd spent Sunday afternoons, the restaurants we'd made our regular spots. I built a new routine, carved out a new life from the wreckage of the old one. But the hardest part wasn't the logistics of moving or the loneliness of starting over. It was the constant second-guessing, the endless loop of questions that had no good answers. Had our entire friendship been a lie? Had she always resented me? Or did something shift? When did Ryan stop loving me, or had he ever loved me at all? What could I have done differently? What signs had I missed? I replayed every interaction, every conversation, every moment, looking for clues. That tie-in in sophomore year when Cassidy seemed irritated that I'd gotten the lead in the school play over her, had that been the beginning of her resentment? When Ryan said I seemed distant after a long day of writing, had he been pulling away even then? How many moments had I missed because I was too trusting, too focused on my own life, too naive to see what was happening? The worst part was that I couldn't talk to anyone about it without feeling pathetic. How do you explain that your best friend of 18 years systematically destroyed your relationship? How do you admit that you didn't see it coming, that you trusted them both completely? It felt like admitting to being stupid, and the shame of that was almost worse than the betrayal itself. But I did talk to Jade, because she'd been through her own betrayals and knew what it was like to have your foundation pulled out from under you. Stop trying to make sense of it, she told me one night over wine in our kitchen. Some people are just broken in ways you can't fix or understand. Cassidy's issues with herself, with her life, with her career, none of that is your fault. And Ryan? He made a choice. A shitty, cowardly choice. But it says more about Hyan than it does about you. I just keep thinking about what I could have done differently, I admitted. If I'd been more attentive to Ryan, if I'd noticed Cassidy was struggling, then what? They still would have been the kind of people who could betray you. You can't love someone into being loyal, Mara. You can't pay enough attention, or be good enough, or successful enough, or perfect enough to make people treat you right. That's on them, not you. Logically, I knew she was right. Emotionally, I couldn't let go of the guilt. About 2 weeks after I moved out, I ran into them. Ryan and Cassidy, together. It was at a Ramasserie store on a Tuesday evening. I was in the produce section, mindlessly picking through avocados, when I heard her laughter. That bright, musical sound that had once been as familiar to me as my own heartbeat. I looked up, and there they were, coming around the corner, hands interlaced, looking at each other with the kind of easy intimacy that should have been private. They hadn't seen me yet. I watched as Ryan removed a box of strawberries and Cassidy said something that made Hyan laugh. Watched as he leaned down to kiss her forehead with a tenderness that felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I could have left, should have left, but I stood there, frozen, unable to look away from this alternate reality where the two people I'd loved most had simply replaced me with each other. Then Cassidy's eyes met mine. The smile dropped from her face. She said something to Ryan, and he turned, his expression shifting from joy to shock to guilt in the span of a heartbeat. They stood there, 15 feet away from me, caught in the middle of their new happiness, and none of us moved. It was Cassidy who finally broke the silence. Mara, she said, her voice uncertain. I wanted to scream at them. Wanted to throw the avocado I was holding at their perfect, traitorous faces. Wanted to demand to know how they could do this to me. How they could betray me and then have the audacity to look happy about it. But instead, I just said, I hope you're happy together, and walked away. Behind me, I heard Cassidy call my name, but I didn't stop. I abandoned my shopping cart in the middle of the aisle, walked straight to my car, and sat in the parking lot crying until the security guard knocked on my window to make sure I was okay. That night, I got a text from Cassidy, the first communication we'd had since I moved out. Cassidy, I'm so sorry you had to see us like that. I know there's nothing I can say that will make this better, but I need you to know that I never wanted to hurt you. I know you don't believe that, and I don't blame you. But it's true. You were my best friend, Mara. You still are, in my heart, and I will always love you, even if you hate me now. I hope someday you can forgive me. I hope someday you can understand that people are complicated and messy, and somebody's love doesn't follow the rules we think it should. I read the message 3 tie-ins, each tie-in feeling a different emotion. Anger, sadness, a twisted sort of longing for the friendship we used to have. Then I blocked her number. 2 days later, Ryan called from a number I didn't recognize. Don't hang up, he said as soon as I answered. Please, just give me 5 minutes. Why? I asked, my voice flat. Because I need to explain. I need you to understand. Understand what? That you're with her now? I saw you, Ryan, at the Ramasserie store. You looked happy. Congratulations. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You're with my best friend. You're dating the person who systematically undermined our relationship so she could have you for herself. And you let her. Worse, you participated in it. Mara, please. Did you sleep with her while we were together? The silence on the other end of the line was answer enough. I see, I said, my voice hollow. How long? How long were you cheating on me? It wasn't like that. It only happened once, and we were both drunk, and it didn't mean anything. But it happened. Yes. I closed my eyes, feeling something inside me break that I didn't know could break any further. Goodbye, Ryan. Mara, wait. I hung up and blocked that number too. The betrayal had layers. It wasn't just that they'd gotten together after we broke up, they'd been building toward it for months, lying to me, sneaking around, and eventually crossing the line into physical infidelity. Every conversation we'd had, every moment we'd spent together as a trio, had been contaminated by their secret. I felt stupid. I felt blind. I felt like the biggest fool in the world for not seeing what was happening right in front of me. But slowly, with Jade's help and with tie-in, I started to feel something else enter me. Not the hot, explosive anger of the initial betrayal, but a cold, righteous fury at the injustice of it all. At Cassidy for using our friendship as a weapon, at Ryan for being too weak to either commit to our relationship or end it honestly. At both of them for making me question my own judgment, my own worth, my own reality. I channeled that anger into my writing. The novel had been working on a quiet literary fiction piece about family dynamics got abandoned. Instead, I started writing something raw and honest and painful, a story about betrayal, about the kind of friendship that turns toxic without you realizing it, about trusting the wrong people and learning to trust yourself again. I wrote every day, some TNs for 8 or 10 hours straight. The words poured out of me like a purge, like I was exorcising demons onto the page. And for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. Not the self who had been defined by being Cassidy's friend or Ryan's girlfriend, but the self who existed independently, who had value beyond those relationships, who could create something meaningful from even the worst experiences. My agent called 3 weeks after I'd sent her the first 100 pages of the new manuscript. "This is it, Mara," she said, her voice excited. "This is the book. I'm sending it out to publishers next week. I think we're going to get offers." "Really?" I asked, not quite believing it. "Really? You've found your voice. Whatever happened in your life recently, it shows on the page. This is authentic and heartbreaking and beautiful. Trust me, this is going to sell." After we hung up, I sat in my little room in Jade's apartment and cried. Not tears of sadness this tie-in, but of relief, of hope, of the beginning of something new rising from the ashes of everything old. Maybe Cassidy had been right about one thing. I had been too focused on my writing, too absorbed in my own world. But that focus, that drive, that dedication to my craft, it was saving me now. While they had each other, I had this. I had my words, my stories, my ability to transform pain into art. It wasn't enough to fill the hole they'd left, but it was a start. 6 months after the Ramassery store encounter, my book sold at auction for 6 figures. 6 figures. The kind of money that would let me quit the coffee shop, focus on writing full-time, maybe even move to a bigger city if I wanted. My agent called with the news on a Tuesday morning, and I sat on my bed in stunned silence for 20 minutes after we hung up, trying to process that this was actually happening. My first instinct was to call Cassidy, to share this moment with her like I'd shared every other major moment of my life. My fingers were literally hovering over her contact still in my phone, just blocked before I remembered that she wasn't my person anymore, that those years of shared joy and celebrated victories were over. Instead, I called Jade, who screamed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. She insisted on taking me out for dinner that night, and for the first time since the betrayal, I felt genuinely happy. Not the careful, fragile happiness of someone afraid the rebound will collapse again, but real, solid joy. Life started to improve in other ways too. I joined a writing ramp where I met people who understood my passion for storytelling without needing to compete with it. I went on a few dates, nothing serious, but enough to remember what it felt like to be seen by someone who didn't know me as Cassidy's friend or Ryan's girlfriend. Just me, as myself, starting fresh. I wish I could say I never thought about them, but that would be a lie. Late at night, alone in my room, I'd sometimes wonder if they were still together, if they'd lasted, if what they built on the ruins of my trust had been worth it. Part of me hoped they'd broken up, that they'd realized the foundation of their relationship was rotten and it couldn't sustain real love. But another part of me, a smaller, quieter part, hoped they were happy. Not because I'd forgiven them, but because I wanted to believe that people could find happiness, even in complicated circumstances. That maybe their betrayal of me wasn't the only truth about them, but I didn't look them up, didn't check their social media, or ask mutual friends about them. I committed to moving forward, not looking back. Then, 8 months after I moved out, I got a call from my mom. "Honey, I have something to tell you," she said, her voice careful in that way that meant bad news was coming. "It's about Cassidy." My stomach dropped. "What about her?" "She was in a car accident. She's okay, she's alive, but she's in the hospital. She's been asking for you." I sat down slowly, trying to process this information. What happened? I don't know all the details. Her mom called me because she knew I'd be able to reach you. Apparently, Cassidy's been trying to contact you but couldn't get through. Because it blocked her. Because it cut her out of my life completely. "How bad is it?" I asked. "Broken leg. Some internal injuries. She needs surgery, but the doctors say she'll recover." I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt numb. This person who had been the most important person in my life for 18 years was hurt, was scared, was asking for me, and I felt nothing. Or maybe not nothing. Maybe I felt a confusing tangle of old love and new resentment, of wanting to care and being afraid of what caring might cost me. "You'll think about it," I told my mom. "Mara, whatever happened between you two is complicated," I finished. "I know. We'll think about it." After we hung up, I sat with the decision for 3 days. Jade told me I didn't owe Cassidy anything, that showing up would only reopen wounds that were finally starting to heal. My writing ram-up was split. Half said forgiveness was important. The other half said protecting myself was more important. In the end, I decided to go. Not because I'd forgiven her, and not because I wanted our friendship back, but because 18 years of history doesn't just disappear, even when it's been poisoned. Because the girl I'd shared my childhood with deserved someone at her bedside, even if that someone was me and I was only there out of obligation. The hospital was across town, in the new wing I'd never been to before. I signed in at the desk, got a visitor's badge, and took the elevator to the 4th floor. Each floor that passed felt like a countdown to something I wasn't prepared for. Cassidy was in room 412. I stood outside the door for a full minute before I could make myself knock. "Come in," said a weak voice that I barely recognized. She looked smaller than I remembered, propped up in the hospital bed, one leg in a cast, bruises coloring her face and arms, IV lines running from her hand. Her dark curls were pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she looked exhausted. When she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. "Mara," she breathed. "You came. My mom told me you were asking for me," I said, staying by the door, keeping my distance. "I didn't think you would. I didn't think I'd ever see you again." We looked at each other across the small hospital room, across the massive chasm of everything that had happened between us. "How are you feeling?" I asked, the words stiff and formal. "Like I got hit by a car," she said, attempting a weak smile. When I didn't smile back, she looked down at her hands. "I'm sorry. Bad joke." "What happened?" "Someone ran a red light. Hit me on the driver's side. They said I was lucky a few inches to the left and..." She trailed off, but the implication was clear. "I'm glad you're okay," I said, and I meant it. Despite everything, I didn't want her dead. I didn't even want her hurt. I just wanted her out of my life. "I know you probably don't want to be here," Cassidy said quietly. "I know you hate me, and you should. What I did was unforgivable. Then why did you ask for me?" "Because you're the only person I want to talk to." She looked up at me, and there was something raw and honest in her eyes that I hadn't seen in a long time. "Because when I thought I was going to die in that car, the only thing I could think about was how I'd ruined the most important friendship of my life and never got to make it right." "You can't make it right, Cassidy. Some things can't be fixed." "I know, but I need to try to explain." "Please, Mara, just sit down for 5 minutes. If you want to leave after that, he'll never bother you again." Against my better judgment, I pulled up the chair next to her bed and sat down, but I didn't get comfortable. "This wasn't a reconciliation, it was an ending." "I was jealous of you," Cassidy said, not wasting any time. "I've been jealous of you since we were kids. You were always smarter, more talented, more focused. You knew what you wanted, and you went after it. And I just floated, tried to be whatever I thought people wanted me to be. And every time you succeeded at something, every time you got closer to your dreams, it reminded me that I was failing at mine. So you decided to sabotage me? I decided to take something that was yours because I couldn't create anything that was mine. She was crying now, tears streaming down her bruised face. And I told myself it was okay because Ryan and I had a real connection, because we understood each other, because maybe we were meant to be together and your relationship was just in the way. But the truth is, I wanted Hyan because he was yours. Because for once, I wanted to be the one someone chose first. And did it work? I asked, my voice cold. Did stealing my boyfriend make you feel better about yourself? No, it made me feel worse. Because I knew what I was doing, and I did it anyway. And then when it was over between you two, when Ryan and I got together, I realized I didn't even really love Hyan. I loved the idea of Hyan, the idea of winning, the idea of being the girl who was chosen. But the actual Hyan? We barely made it 3 months before we realized we had nothing in common except you. I felt a bitter satisfaction at that. So, you're not together anymore? No. We broke up a month after you moved out. Turned out that a relationship built on betrayal and resentment isn't very sustainable. Who knew? She laughed, but it was hollow. I lost you. I lost Hyan. And I lost myself somewhere in the process. And I have no one to blame but myself. I wanted to feel victorious. Wanted to feel vindicated. To say I told you so. To take some kind of satisfaction from the fact that their relationship had imploded. But I just felt tired. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because you deserve to know the truth. Because I've been carrying the weight of what I did for 8 months, and it's eating me alive. Because when I woke up in this hospital bed, I realized life's too short to let the people you love think you never really cared about them. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. She nodded, like she'd expected that. I did love you, Mara. I do love you. You were my best friend, my sister, my family. And I destroyed that because I couldn't deal with my own insecurities. Loving someone means protecting them, I said. It means being loyal to them. It means not tearing them down to build yourself up. What you did wasn't love, Cassidy. It was selfishness. You're right. It was. And I will remember it for the rest of my life. We sat in silence for a moment. The hospital machines beeped rhythmically, marking tie-in, marking the space between us that could never be bridged again. I'm glad you're okay, I said finally, standing up. I'm glad you're going to recover. But I can't do this, Cass. I can't forgive you. And I can't be your friend. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. I understand, she said, wiping her tears. Thank you for coming. Thank you for giving me a chance to explain, even if it doesn't change anything. It doesn't, I said, but my voice was gentler now. But maybe it helps you move forward. I hope you figure out who you want to be, Cassidy. I hope you learn to build your own life instead of trying to take someone else's. I'm trying, she said. I'm in therapy now. Working through all the stuff I should have worked through years ago. Trying to figure out why I am the way I am. Good. That's good. I walked to the door, paused with my hand on the handle. There was so much more I could say, years of hurt and anger and betrayal that I could pour out. But what was the point? It wouldn't change what happened. It wouldn't give me back the friendship ID lost, or the tie-in ID wasted. Goodbye, Cassidy, I said without turning around. Goodbye, Mara. I really am sorry. For everything. I left the hospital and didn't look back. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and cried, not for the friendship I'd lost, but for the friendship I'd never really had. Because the Cassidy I'd loved, the one I'd trusted with everything, maybe she'd never existed. Maybe had been friends with an idea of a person rather than the real, flawed, jealous person she actually was. Or maybe she had been real once, and somewhere along the way, we'd both changed. Maybe the truth was more complicated than betrayer and betrayed, victim and villain. Maybe we'd both failed each other in different ways, just not equally. But that didn't mean I had to forgive her. It just meant I could start to let go. I drove home to Jade's apartment to my apartment now, since I'd signed a longer lease after the book deal. I made myself tea, sat on my secondhand couch, and opened my laptop. My second book was due in 6 months, and I had work to do. Life moved forward. My first book came out to strong reviews. I did interviews and podcasts and readings at bookstores. I moved to a nicer apartment in a different part of town. I went on more dates, eventually met someone new, a guy named Marcus who worked at a nonprofit and had kind eyes and no connection to my past. We took things slow, and I learned to trust again, carefully and with boundaries, but trust nonetheless. I heard through the Ramapavine that Cassidy had moved to New York to pursue acting more seriously, that Shed booked a small role in an off-Broadway play, that she was seeing someone new. I felt a small, genuine happiness for her, the way you might feel happy for a stranger who's getting their life together. Ryan, I heard nothing about. We had no mutual friends left, no reason for our paths to cross. He became a ghost in my history, a cautionary tale I told myself about trusting too easily. Somebody ends, late at night. I still think about what Cassidy said in that hospital room, about jealousy and insecurity and wanting to be chosen first. I think about how easy it is to compare yourself to others, to measure your worth against someone else's success, to let envy poison what should be pure. And I think about how I'll never fully understand what went through her head during those months when she was undermining my relationship, how her resentment must have festered and ran on until it felt justified, righteous even. How easy it is to make yourself the hero of your own story, even when you're actually the villain. But mostly, I think about how I survived it. How I took the worst betrayal of my life and transformed it into something meaningful. How I learned to stand on my own, to trust my own judgment, to build a life that didn't rely on anyone else for validation or meaning. The girl I was at 7 would let Cassidy decide they were going to be friends. Would spent 18 years in that friendship without questioning if it was healthy or equal. That girl is gone. In her place is someone stronger, more cautious, but also more authentic. I don't hate Cassidy anymore. Hate requires energy I'd rather spend on better things. But I don't love her either. Shay's just someone I used to know. Someone who taught me hard lessons about trust and loyalty and the complicated nature of human relationships. And maybe that's okay. Maybe not every story has a happy ending or a redemption arc. Maybe some stories just end, and the best we can do is learn from them and move forward. I'm moving forward, and for the first tie-in in a long tie-in, I'm doing it with my head held high, knowing that I may have lost a friend and a boyfriend, but I didn't lose myself. And in the end, that's what matters most.